I caught my wife's years-long affair with her coworker. What I discovered would destroy everything we built. I don't even know where to begin. My wife, Leah 43, and I have been married for 10 years. We have two beautiful children, our 5-year-old son, Michael, and our 2-year-old daughter, Emma. I thought we were happy, or at least, I thought we were trying. But 4 weeks ago, my entire life came crashing down. The signs had been there for a while, but I'd been too blind to see them. Our marriage hadn't been perfect for years. The passion we once shared had slowly eroded, replaced by routine and responsibility. I work as a project manager for a construction firm, often putting in long hours to provide for our family. Leah works as a marketing coordinator at a local advertising agency, a job she'd held for the past 7 years. I started to notice something was off when she was glued to her phone more than usual. Leah has always been private, but this was different. She'd smile at her screen, then immediately lock it when I walked into the room. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid. We'd been together for so long, surely, I knew my wife better than to suspect something was wrong. But the little things began to add up. Her work schedule became increasingly erratic. Late nights became more frequent. She'd come home smelling of a different cologne, not mine. Her clothes would sometimes be slightly wrinkled, as if she'd been in a hurry to change. Michael and Emma seemed oblivious, but I was becoming more observant with each passing day. One night, after she fell asleep, I couldn't resist. The tension had been building for weeks, and my curiosity was eating me alive. I carefully reached for her phone, my hands trembling slightly. The passcode, our wedding anniversary, opened up a world I never wanted to see. What I found still makes me sick to my stomach. There were messages with a coworker, Eric, 48M, going back years. Explicit texts that detailed their intimate moments. Photos that left nothing to the imagination. Promises of love that should have been reserved for our marriage. Even references to secret trips they'd taken while I was at home with the kids, believing she was working late. My heart was racing, my hands shaking uncontrollably. The messages weren't just recent, they went back 4 years. 4 years of lies. 4 years of betrayal. I remembered those times, the supposed work conferences, the late-night project meetings, all of it was a carefully constructed facade. I confronted her the next morning. The house was quiet, Michael was at kindergarten, and Emma was playing with her toys in the living room. Leah was having her morning coffee, looking completely normal, completely unaware that her world was about to shatter. At first, she denied it, said I was misunderstanding. Her initial defense was weak, stammering, avoiding eye contact. But when I read her the messages out loud, her face crumbled. The facade fell away, revealing the truth I'd suspected but hadn't wanted to believe. She admitted everything. The affair started 4 years ago, long before our youngest was born. You were distant, she said. We were struggling. But nothing could excuse this level of betrayal. Nothing could justify the complete destruction of our family's trust. I needed to know more. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The next day, I took a day off work, something I rarely did. I followed her to work, parking discreetly down the street from her office building. My heart was racing, a mixture of anger, pain, and disbelief coursing through my veins. Sure enough, after her shift, she walked out arm in arm with Eric. They didn't even try to hide it. They got into his car, a sleek BMW that I now realized he'd probably bought with the money he'd saved from not supporting a family, and drove off. I followed them at a discreet distance, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. They drove to a small restaurant in the downtown area, a place I'd never been to, but one that seemed to be their regular spot. I watched from my car as they sat like a happy couple, laughing, holding hands. Each touch was a knife to my heart. Each laugh was a betrayal of our years together. But what truly shattered me was what I discovered next. They'd been renting an apartment near her work, a place where she'd go when she was working overtime. I saw them go inside, watching them from my car parked on the streets, a few blocks away. I checked on them for about 4 nights, documenting everything. Each night was the same routine, intimate dinner, quiet conversation, then disappearing into their secret world. That's when I snapped. The controlled, professional version of myself disappeared. I packed all of her belongings, everything she owned, into the back of my car. Every piece of clothing, every personal item, every memory we'd shared was now just stuff. Meaningless objects that represented a life built on lies. The next morning, I drove to her workplace. The parking lot was full, her colleagues were arriving for their daily routine. And then she appeared, walking confidently, probably planning her next lie, her next secret meeting. I dumped everything right there on the sidewalk in front of her and her coworkers. Her designer bags, her expensive shoes, her carefully curated wardrobe, all scattered on the concrete. I told her she wasn't coming home. The looks from her colleagues were a mixture of shock and pity, but I didn't care. "You're done," I remember telling her. "You're not a part of this family anymore." Since then, I've filed for divorce and am fighting for full custody of the kids. Michael and Emma are everything to me. They don't deserve to be raised by someone who could so casually destroy a family. Leah's been begging me to forgive her, sending endless texts and emails. "I made a mistake," she says. "I don't want to lose the family we built. But how can I? How can I trust someone who's lived a double life for years? Who's looked me in the eye every single day and continued her affair?" Friends and family keep asking if I regret how I handled it, publicly humiliating her, kicking her out without notice. Truth is, I do. Partially. She tore our family apart, and the least she could do is face some accountability. But I can't help but feel like the bad guy for how I acted. The nights are the hardest. After the kids are asleep, the silence is deafening. I miss the family we were supposed to be. I miss the life I thought we had. But more than anything, I miss the idea of a future I'll never have. I've started therapy. Not for her, not because anyone told me to, but for Michael and Emma. They don't deserve this chaos. They deserve a father who can be strong, who can rebuild, who can show them what true love and commitment looks like. As much as it hurts, I know they are better off with me than with someone who could live a lie for so long. Better off with someone who will always choose them, who will always be honest, who will always fight for our family. Our family might look different now, but it will be real. And that's all that matters.